Just we start with, we need to know what we are praying. So, anybody has an idea of what this prayer is? Sahanavavatu sahanam bhunattu sahaviryam karavavahe tejasvina adhitam astu ma vidvishavahe. What is the meaning? Anybody has any idea what we are praying for? Andre.
This is a prayer for both the student and the teacher. It includes both sides, and it's meant to cause, first of all, a respect between both. The student needs to put their best foot forward. They need to have all their eyes and ears open to receive the message successfully. Similarly, they need to participate with the teacher so that the teacher can have reflection, feedback loop, so that the teacher can see where the student stands. Also, the teacher needs to put their best foot forward so that the student fully assimilates and recognizes what's being said, knowing that the teacher probably has had said this before. So that means that the teacher needs to act as if it's being said for the first time. So that way both sides are including their best together so that a proper connection can get built or established between the two sides.
Yeah. Okay. And you, yeah, go ahead. You were saying something else.
Well, also finally the shanti. The shantis is, the first one is let all obstacles, personal obstacles, be removed. The second shanti is let the obstacles which are environmentally based be removed. And the third shanti is let those obstacles which are beyond our immediate control or immediate perception, like universal factors.
Very good. I mean, it's nice, really nice to see what all we remember. We do so many things, and you know, we so it's nice. It's good that you can articulate, and all of you please do it because it's really nice. This is the whole thing, is we all participate in that learning process. So this is a prayer, and prayer is to whom? Who do we pray to? Ishwara. Wonderful. You need to know this, you know, because why I'm saying this is because there are a lot of the so-called, I think a lot of you have been around sufficiently to so many spiritual groups. And very interesting, you know, you kind of hear the words like, oh yeah, we pray to the universe. And actually nobody prays to, universe consists of just as we understand it right now, right? It consists of the waters and the mountains and the planets. And so who are we praying to? We need to really know, are we praying to all these entities, or who are we praying to? So as Ruxandra. Yes. Ruxandra said that we are actually, prayer is always to Ishvara, right? And what we mean by Ishvara will be very clearly shown in the Upanishad. So for the time being, we take it as just intelligence or the knowledge which pervades the whole universe, which makes everything what is, which organizes things in a way that we are able to interact with each other, right? So the prayers are not to some dumb, inert universe. The prayer is to that intelligence. And to this intelligence, what are we asking for? There is another very common feeling is, oh, you just pray, you don't need to ask for anything because Ishvara knows what to give us. Please don't use these Ishvara stuff, you know, just loosely with all these flying ideas. In this Vedic prayers, they are all very clear as to what they are asking for. Wonderful. It's good to know what you want in life, right? So he says, Saha, now, Saha is Ishvara, now means all of us. Avatu is Rakshatu. Rakshatu means may he protect us. May he, there is no he or she, please understand, there is no gender to Ishvara, but may Ishvara protect us. Why do we need protection?
Because we cannot control everything.
We have come with an intention to learn, but we can't control so many variables. So that means you make your own effort. Whenever you come to a learning situation, you can't come, you have to come with an intention of learning. Otherwise you do disservice to yourself and you do disservice to a teacher. You have to come with enthusiasm to learn. And for that learning, what happens is you need protection because there are so many unknown variables, right? So that means we pray, and as Andre explained, both the teacher and the student both are praying. So it's not only the students who need protection, even the teacher needs protection. Then, Sahana Avatu Sahano Bhunattu. We not only need protection, the word Bhunattu means we need nourishment. So what it then means is the teaching has to nourish us, right? So that means, what is nourishing mean? Tell me. What is nourishing? How would you get nourished? What would you consider nourishment from the teaching?
To answer the questions.
Huh?
To answer the questions.
Excellent. One of the things that the way that the teaching can nourish you is answer the questions. Like all of you had said, I was so touched yesterday. All of you had one thing in common, and all of you said that I have been seeking. I have been seeking for a very, very long time. And then as a result of that seeking, what happened is you went from one place to the other. So why did you go from one place to the other? Why didn't you just stick to that place, the first place that you went to? Because as Ruxandra said, it did totally answer all the questions that we had with total clarity. So therefore, what we do is, we need nourishing. What does it mean? These words need to be what we call deconstructed in order to understand what they mean, right? So nourishing is answering questions. What else could be nourishing? Tell me.
Remove the doubts.
So remove the doubts, exactly. So that means, suppose you get the answer of Vedanta, right? And Vedanta does show you the vision of life, the way that you never had seen before, but you may still have doubts. And when the teacher is able to remove, some doubts are known to you, some doubts are unknown to you. What do I mean? Sometimes when you think about Vedanta yourself, when you're on your own, you start thinking that I understood, but when you are thinking through things, you will see, hey, this I don't understand so clearly. So that means this is your doubt. Sometimes, when you tell everyone very enthusiastically, right, oh, I'm studying Vedanta, and then people start asking you, so what is Vedanta? So you start attempting to answer what Vedanta is. And then they'll ask you questions, right? And when they ask questions, oh yeah, that's true, I didn't think about it. I don't know how to answer this question. Doubt. Right? So that means some doubts are unknown to you. Until somebody raises it, you don't even know that you have a doubt. The third thing is, there are these doubts of, which is, whatever we are going to study, we are going to study from of course, what my teacher Swami Dayananda taught, my guru, but he himself took it from Adi Shankaracharya Bhashya. Have you heard of Adi Shankaracharya? He has written commentaries on Upanishads which are very extensive, and in those extensive commentaries, he himself raises doubts. Beautiful. He explains what Upanishads say, and he himself raises doubts. And when he raises doubts, he is so candid. You may start thinking, yeah, that's true. Actually, why? Right? And then he answers it. Why is it done? Tell me. To give you the clarity. Because suppose you take an other opposing standpoint, and who opposes you is not just any Tom, Dick and Harry, but some big philosophers, then you have to be able to answer them. So therefore, this doubts raising is one way through which you nourish yourself, because you grow in your clarity. What is the third way that you can nourish yourself?
By affirming the truth.
Huh?
By affirming
But yes.
what is unspoken.
Yeah, see that's true, by affirming the truth. But one important way it nourishes you is, who said that as you begin to, I think it was Stefan who said yesterday, as you begin to learn and assimilate Vedanta, life begins to be easy. So that means it's not like one thing that you understand in the classroom and then outside world you're not comfortable and you always have to be there in order to be comfortable. Our Swamiji used to say, what freedom is it where it's so conditioned by where you are and what you are doing? It's not called freedom. When you discover that I'm free, which part of the world you put me in, which situation you put me in, I don't lose sight of my freedom. That's called knowledge. It's not dependent upon so many things. I have to be in Himalayas and I have to have this temperature and I have to have this environment and nobody disturbing me and then I'm free. Hey, millions of conditions have to be met before you can tell you're free. That's not freedom. So therefore, what this is when you begin, that ease with which you begin to live life. And that ease of living with life comes from bringing Ishvara in your life. The more and more you see the all-pervading presence of Ishvara, what happens is your trust in everything grows. When your trust in everything grows, you become a different human being. The way you relate to the world, the way you relate to other people, you don't have any more need to name the people. They are material people, I'm spiritual. All that just falls apart. They are lost human beings and I have found my way. All these ways of looking at the world, it falls apart because you see the intricacies of Ishvara everywhere. So that means when you begin to see the intricacies of Ishvara everywhere, you don't have to be in a state of denial. Neither in the state of denial of who you are, nor in the state of denial of what the world is. In and through all the complexities and in and through all the this apparent chaos, you begin to see this amazing order and you begin to relax in it. And you're so relaxed that you can be anywhere and you can be doing anything. So that is also meant by nourishment. And this is why Vedanta, when we talk about, is not only about understanding. The assimilation of reality involves that it gets translated. What you understand in the classroom translates into how you live in this world. There cannot be two things, right? In class I feel, oh yeah, that's true, I'm free. I go out and I'm, oh my God, the government is horrible, and then, why is this economic system, and all these different things, and or the political problems, and that means your mind is totally, there is nothing wrong in understanding the complexities of situations and analyzing it. Wonderful. That is a fine mind. We are not talking about things, but if it begins to burden you and you feel this powerless, helpless person where you are only wise but the whole world is lost, that's a problem, right? So that means that also nourishment means you give others also freedom to think what they think and you are clear about what you think and enjoy the whole thing. Enjoy everything, right? That is called freedom. That is called nourishment. So Sahana Bhunatu. In order for the knowledge to do both, right, clearer understanding, assimilation, changing the way we live in this world, you need to make an effort. Saha Viryam Karavavahe. Let us both make an effort. The teacher has to make an effort, as Andre says, that even if you have taught this Upanishad or Bhagavad Gita million times, you still have to, what? Teach with equal enthusiasm. And not like, oh my God, I have to explain this all over again. And God knows what they are all going to ask me, and Right? So that means you have to have that enthusiasm, because you never can get tired of the truth. Really, it's true. That's the truth. Whenever you have to, even I tell all my students that the day that I teach, it's a different day altogether, because in order to teach, what you need to do is what? Bring the whole teaching alive in your mind. And then you have to explain to somebody, make it understandable by somebody. That's a grace. So that means that every time the teacher has to make an effort. But suppose you have this great teacher making a lot of effort, and the students say, oh yeah, okay, I've just come to listen. You do it's like, yeah, I'm making a lot of effort to what? Make you understand something, make you see certain facts, and then you come with either the thing or it's like, yeah, I'm just here, kind of, I've been to hundreds of places, so one more place, so what? Right? So that means, students, it's a dynamic between student and teacher. The more the student engages, the heights of learning take place. That's why for a teacher to find a good student it's a big high. When you ask discerning questions, when you reflect, when you learn with freshness, when you learn with enthusiasm, there is no bigger reward for a teacher than that. Really. So that means both make an effort. Teacher makes an effort, student makes an effort, and then what? In that Tejasvina Adhitamastu. As a result of both the efforts, what happens is we are praying, let the study be brilliant. Every class you are praying this, understand this. No class you just say, just come. Nobody. Both the student and the teacher, every time you are praying for it, whether you recognize it or not. Let this study be brilliant, let there not be any obstacle. Mavit Vishavahe. Let there not be any obstacles. What kind of obstacles? So 3 kinds of obstacles, as Andre explained. Because there are 3 potential types of obstacles, we have 3 shantis. So Andre explained 3 shantis. What are the 3 shantis that he explained? The first shanti is that all the obstacles which can come from you. What are the obstacles of learning which can come from you? There are different kinds of obstacles. One is just a physical obstacle. Suppose you came here, now the back is hurting. What will happen? All the time, the attention will only go on your back, and that means you'll miss out on what the teacher is saying. So that's one kind of obstacles, centered on I. What is the second type of obstacle, which is a little subtler obstacle, and that is, all of us, see, when you go to a physics class, when you go to a math class, Tobias is a teacher. I didn't know that Dara, for the first time, he said that, where is Dara? Here. For the first time I recognized that you were a teacher. I didn't know that. Okay, so that's good. So yesterday you said you were a primary school teacher. I didn't know that. Okay. So every teacher, right, so has a certain ease with which the person teaches a subject matter, because before you come to that class, You don't know anything about it, right? The young kids come, they don't know anything about math, they don't know anything about biology, they don't know anything about history, they don't know anything about geography, so you start putting in inputs. When you come to Vedanta class, you have your own notions about who you are. When you come to Vedanta class, you also have a lot of notions about what the nature of the world is. You also have notions about what is the nature of the cause of the universe. And, by the way, each one has their own notions. Not all common notions. Now, the teacher has to navigate intelligently and make you see what the teacher wants you to see. Now, when the teacher is attempting to make you see, what one needs to do is what? Give up one's own notion. At some point, you need to give up. If it is not true, you have to give it up. You think we all, even if we come willingly, you think we are all like very wanting to give up our notions, something that we have invested in for years? Mind resists. Mind resists and two things happen. Either you fall asleep, that's a very common thing, right? Because it's true, the mind is not willing to take in data. So somebody asked me, so what do you do when your students fall asleep in the class? I said, I do nothing. Why? Because I really recognize the fact that when it becomes too much for your mind, the mechanism that the mind has to what is just switch it off. That's a common thing. You fall asleep, right? So that can happen. The second thing which can happen is what? That your reality, even if you're not totally sure. If you were totally sure, nobody will be here, actually, to tell you the truth, right? So that means what happens is, even if, so suppose you're sure, and I say, or whoever the teacher is, says something which contradicts what you think, sometimes the mind resists. Not always. Sometimes the mind resists, and what the mind wants to do is two things. Either say, yeah, these are just details, I don't need to know it. Very common, I have seen it again and again. Right? Oh, Sanskrit, all details. Hey, these words have power to reveal truth. This is a way that your mind justifies that you don't want to engage further. It's a mechanism of the mind to prevent learning. The second thing that can happen is you can actually become angry with the teacher. Whether you recognize or not, it happens all the time. Our teacher, Swamiji, was so clever. He knew it. He says, hey, I have to first not only teach you the truth, but I also have to take your anger, your projection. I have to take everything and I have to still make you see. That's how it is. That's the job of a teacher. That's why you can't take anything personally. When some student shows aggression, right? So sometimes, especially Surya has seen me when I was a little younger and I was teaching, right? And so people always, what is this young girl, what is she going to say, right? So then they'll all ask, like, as though they're all very, oh yeah, but, and they ask a question, not for asking me the answer, they ask me a question just to kind of prove me wrong. That's an attitude. And a teacher begins to see this attitude. It's very easy to recognize this attitude. So I used to initially engage and try to prove and all. Surya said, hey, leave them alone. Because they are not asking you to learn. They are just asking you to just prove how clever they are and how you don't know anything. Leave them alone. Right? And that was very clear because, how did I know? Because the same thing, if Surya began to answer, they'll be all listening. have some resistance towards authority, right? This authority, so suppose you had a problem with your parents, right? So what, now teacher also assumes what this role of an authority. Then what do you want to do? Rebel. Very common. All this teacher knows very well. What all the time? Hey, you think you are just sitting here and I don't know. We all know everything what's going on. But it's a lovely show. We have to enjoy it. So therefore, we have to relax and let others, give others freedom, and they will, over a period of time, they will turn around. Really, if they have to turn around. So that means, so what this obstacles which are centered on oneself, several different obstacles. Then the obstacles which are centered around the environment. Second Shanti. So the first Shanti is, do you want to write Sanskrit or it becomes too much? Adhyatmika. You have to guys know it. You know this very resistance that you have, that resistance itself shows something. So you have to give up that resistance and enjoy. See this whole thing of, I'm afraid of things that I don't know. Hey, why are you afraid? I'm just writing some things. And over a period of time, I'm going to write hundreds of them. Doesn't matter, right? And I'm going to use Sanskrit because, to tell you the truth, Adhyatmika. I don't know this transliteration language. So who knows transliteration language? Somebody knows? In the break, if you can, Charlotte knows. So if she can just put this in transliteration language. So Adhyatmika means, okay, now I need much more space than before because, okay, Adhyatmika means any obstacles which are your personal obstacles. The second Shanti is for what we call Adhi Bhautika. What is Adhi Bhautika? What is the meaning? Even if you don't understand this side, if you understand this side, it's okay. Yeah? What he said is the obstacles which come from your environment. Okay. And that could mean yesterday when the troops were coming, he said the entire expressway highway was closed. So this is what we call the external obstacles, right? Now she said that she had to take first the flight, then the train, and then the bus, and then the car came to pick you up.
We were late, so.
So that means what happens is, suppose the train got late, what will happen? All the subsequent, her train would be missed, the train is missed, the bus would be missed. So these are what we call Adhi Bhautika. So many things can happen while you are coming here. So many external forces can go wrong. So therefore, you want Shanti, not only to get here, but for these 5 or 6 days, let there be no obstacles from the environment. Yeah? And the third is which one? Adi Daivika. What is Daivika? Yeah. What is Adi Daivika?
Universal.
Huh?
Universal.
Universal. Who said universal? Oh. It is Andre. Okay. So, okay. So all the universal. How is this? Okay. Now, Andre. How is this different from this? This is environment. It also comes from the universe, and this also comes from the universe. How are these two different?
One is localized, that is personal to the individual. The other one is universal.
What? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll explain. No, it's good. At least, you know. So environment is like your immediate physical environment. Suppose it were to have a thunderstorm or something like that, right? So that's a Sorry?
Mosquitoes like this.
Mosquitoes like yesterday who didn't bite me, but I think. So that means, yeah, so these are what we call the immediate environment, right? Now, these universal are actually of a very much bigger magnitude because suppose you come, there is always a person, when you come to Vedanta class, quite a bit of logic is used in order to give you clarity about what we are talking about, right? And many people say, oh, I wish I have heard it again and again and again. I wish I had more intelligence. I wish I had better memory. Because by the time I learn one thing, I forget the other thing. And then, unfortunately, the vision requires for you to remember each part and put it together accurately to create the vision. Like I told you yesterday about Sudoku. You can't just say, put some numbers. Anyway, what difference does it make whether it's 1, 2 times or 2? It's all mithya. We don't do that. Right? We don't do that. So that means each one has to be put in its right place and its connection with everything has to be seen clearly to build a vision, which is a coherent vision. So therefore, these kind of things, memory, right, intelligence. Now, Vedanta doesn't only require intelligence, by the way, it requires a lot of maturity, emotional maturity. Now, that means that some work needs to be done by all of us because not everybody has come with this great emotional maturity, right? So that means all these, you want to be this person who is able to manage emotions really well, but you find yourself a little bit helpless, and these are what we call the factors beyond your direct, something that you can't see, right? Personal means you can make an effort. The environment is like the physical, immediate environment. There are certain basic constraints that we all have for learning, and those are what we call vedika, over which we don't have any control. And it's not something that you can work on immediately to change from one day to the other. So that means, but you need these forces to be conducive. So what do you do in this prayer? You ask for Shanti for all three. Right? So therefore, this is how the prayer begins. So that means it's a beautiful prayer where this learning is not taken for granted. Learning requires an effort, and both the teacher and the student are willing to make that effort and ask for grace of Ishvara so that the learning becomes brilliant. Right? Okay. Now, in addition to this prayer, this Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, has one more prayer to begin with. So, let's do that prayer. You will chant after me, you think? Okay. Om Bhadram Karne Vishunuyam Devaha
Ne Vishunuyam.
Okay, it's too difficult. Bhadram Karne Bihi Shrunuyam Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhir Yajatraha Sthirairangaihi Tushtuvagam Sastanubihi. I'm not breaking the sandhis at the right place, but just to make it easier for you to chant. Vyashema Devahitai Yadayuhu Swastina Swastina Indro Vruddhashravaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastir Nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swastino Bruhaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti. Beautiful. It sounded so good. I like listening to it. Very nice. Thanks for making this effort. Good. Okay. Now, before we see the meaning of this prayer, one thing that we need to ask, and that we all call Vedanta a spiritual pursuit, right? A spiritual. And now, I will ask you to little bit think about and tell me what does spirituality mean? Who is a spiritual person? What is the definition? See, we talk about things as though we know it, but we actually quite know it. When I ask you a question like this, yeah, that's true. How do you define a spiritual person? So this is what I was saying, that the semblance of knowing has to be converted into real knowing. Right? So that's what it requires vigor. So therefore, what I would like for you to, because it's related to this prayer, that's why it's not unrelated to this prayer. Spiritual person, who do you think is a spiritual person? Any ideas? Yeah.
Like any person who's asking questions about the nature of reality.
Okay. Somebody who's asking questions about nature of reality. Yes?
Someone who's accepting that there is greater truth than the immediate personal environment.
Okay.
Yes.
So somebody who's accepting the fact that there is more to life than what we can just see. And because they are accepting that there is more to life than what they actually engage in asking questions, right? So actually they too are in a way related. Accepting that there is more to life than what we see. What else?
Someone who's accepted but living to the best ability according to Dharma, with the Dharma, yeah.
Okay, somebody who's able to discern, according to Sterling, somebody is able to discern dharma and align one's life to dharma, and that according to, yeah, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody who's able to align to dharma, so alignment to dharma.
Someone who believes that there is a bigger order than himself.
Yeah, so that will
That's
go,
the same, okay.
It's kind of similar, accepting that there is something more to life, bigger order, and you want to kind of then ask questions, right, about what that thing is.
Whenever I can be satisfied with the values which this world can offer.
Sorry, Yuna.
Man who never will be satisfied
Yes.
with the values which this world can offer him.
Okay, so that means the person is also, because, yeah, they are asking, if you go one step further, why are you asking these questions? Because somehow you have also understood that the world the way it is, right, it cannot give you the satisfaction that you are searching for. Is that what you are saying?
God offer me this pleasure, this system of values, but it's not satisfying me.
Okay, so the commonly held world values do not satisfy.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. So commonly held world values, what people value, right? Well, society values do not satisfy me. Andre.
One who's moved from the dominance of sukshma buddhi, the gross intellect, to the tikshna buddhi, to the subtle intellect, to discriminate between the real or the non-changing versus the changing satya mitya, and consistently remaining in that inquiry between the two realities.
Okay, so that means a kind of a discerning, a discriminating person, right? So that's a good description also. A discerning and discriminating person. Lovely definitions. I think if I sat on my own, I wouldn't come up with all of them. This is the power of collective knowledge. It's interesting how many interesting things can come out of so many different minds, you know, when you make them think about things. Then I will use my Vedanta knowledge and put it all in order. So, but it's very nice. Yeah, Kurt?
I think people who are connected with the nature, with animals, with other people.
When you find your connection, with other beings, right? And other beings can include, as Kurt is saying, animals, it can include trees, it can include mountains, whatever, right? So other beings, both sentient and insentient for the time being. Sentient, do you understand the meaning? Sentient means living beings, and insentient is what? Non-living beings. What are the non-living beings?
Elements.
Elements, right? So who finds one's connection with sentient and insentient. Okay. This is anybody else who has any idea that they would like to add to, if you have, yes, Mati.
I don't know if it's already said, a person who is interested in things that are not visible but have an impact, are not visible through the senses.
Yeah, so that's why I think we say that something which is more than what we see, so that is also is kind of little bit included in that.
I don't know if it helps, but I also would think that everybody is a spiritual seeker. So, like, in its nature, just cannot help. But going in this direction to liberation is maybe not so helpful in this.
Yeah, everybody is a seeker, is true. And a seeker of what? Happiness, fulfillment. But therefore, everybody can everybody be called spiritual?
No.
No. So that's why it's important to recognize, yes, everybody is a seeker, but in order to be called spiritual, a certain conditions have to be met. Yeah, Sandra.
I think one who's not seeking finite results in life, but the infinite.
Wow. Okay. The one who's searching for the infinity. Wow. Okay, one who's searching. Okay, one who is not searching for finite, okay, who is searching for infinity. Okay.
And to put it in other words, one who has figured out the impermanence of things and situations and everything, and who is interested to know what's impermanent.
Yeah, exactly. So that
Just
means,
other words.
yeah, we have kind of, I think, yeah, commonly held values and the impermanent nature of things.
And who's interested
The
in
nature of things and is looking for permanent solutions. Excellent. Okay.
One who feels responsible not for their own life, for the nature for other people.
Yeah.
The responsibility.
Yeah, so I think that we have said you feel not only connection, but now you have added one more dimension to that connection, which is actually responsibility. So that means that connection is converted into action, right? So connection and also responsibility with our environment.
It's also alignment to Dharma.
Yeah, it's written here, alignment with Dharma.
It's like compassion too.
Compassion. Okay, very good. So the alignment to dharma, that connection leads to what we can call compassion.
And that connection is not only with other beings, but also with Ishvara, I would say.
Ah, you guys, I don't need to teach you anything. Your collective knowledge is more than mine. Okay. So, superb. Some kind of a connection with Ishvara. Very good. But then I will ask you, if you say that, it's a very good discerning mind, but I have to, it impels me to ask you one more question. Then can you then say that every religious person is spiritual? No. Yeah. So why not? What is it in the religious person which is not in, or the vice versa?
The religious person looks for God outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas there is only God for the spiritual person.
Very good.
Everywhere.
Level of maturity. Because religion people is like children, teenagers. they need parents like God who will rule them. Yeah. And for spiritual people, freedom is the highest value.
So a spiritual person knows that the connection is always there, instead of...
Actually, you know, when you start being spiritual, you don't know all these answers, by the way, right? You are kind of you discover as a result of inquiry, right? But at least there is an attempt. I think what I would say is there is an attempt to understand the nature of Ishvara, right? The religious person acts from a certain ideal of Ishvara without really questioning it, whether it makes sense, whether it is true, whether it holds logically or not. Whereas a spiritual person is more like interested in finding out, and that connection that the person establishes with Ishvara is not with one's own image of what Ishvara is, but with really what Ishvara is. So that's what will convert the person from just being a religious person to a spiritual person. You understand? Yeah? So you first need to understand what Ishvara is, and then discover that connection which is in keeping with realities. Yeah? Is it okay? Yeah. The realities of Ishvara, and then what connect to that. You had something to say?
This is what I wanted to say, that
yes.
The spiritual person will question while the religious would believe.
Exactly. Right? So here it is more inquiry-based approach to what is Ishvara, and then connecting to Ishvara, rather than just a belief-based approach that there is this entity and I don't quite know what it is, but it is there, and you know it's guiding me, and you know some connection establishing. So that's why the spiritual and religious, there is a slight difference. Okay? Yeah. So Clementina has something to say. No. I totally agree. You don't totally agree? Okay, please say what you don't agree with. Wonderful. Say that.
No,
say.
I don't agree.
Oh, you totally agree. Oh, I thought I don't agree. Okay. Then you don't need to tell Tobiya, you can tell me So, don't worry. This is a free class. ask, I really want you all to shine that knowledge. So, okay, so now this is a spiritual person. What has emerged here is something which is beautiful. Please look at this, what has emerged here. It's something very beautiful because there is what we call a cliche and commonly held understanding of philosophy, of spirituality, which is also pretty common. I don't know, I mean, I have had only one guru luckily in my life. I haven't had anybody else. But when students come to me, I hear all kinds of things, so that I get to know a lot of things. So common things about the beliefs about spirituality is detachment. People hold absence of desire, not being interested in material things, that you are only interested in so these are the common things. Now let's look whether these match with these or not.
Well, the not being interested in material things is also similar to not being satisfied with the world, but just knowing that there's no real tangible satisfaction in objects.
Excellent. So that means not being interested in material things is kind of, you find that, where is that one who is, okay, that's something commonly held, yeah. Okay, so material means commonly held, it's connected to this. Commonly held world values is not solution to what I'm searching for, right? It could mean like that, right? So it is somehow connected here. Now, what I will have to do is, as we progress, we will have to re-question all of this, because these are starting points, but they have to be reshuffled. So then it's good. I'm so happy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's limiting Ishvara.
Sorry?
This is limiting Ishvara.
Yeah. So
Ishvara is only this and not
yes.
this.
Okay. So what Khan is saying is, what she's saying is that there is a commonly held world values which are, which do not satisfy me. This is a fact, and because of this, my need to pursue things for this satisfaction has reduced, right? But the tripping point where you lose your objectivity is what Carl is talking about. And if you actually categorically begin to deny the importance and the place of these things, you limit Ishvara. Very good. So that means, to a certain extent, this connection is true. And actually, I wanted to bring it later, but I'm so glad you brought it up. It's nice, right? When you say that, so suppose you say that, oh, I'm not interested in the car, I'm not interested. What are the world values? They are interested in car, they are interested in relationships, they are interested in their promotion, they are interested in making money, they are interested in so many different things. Now, all of this, one thing is that it cannot totally satisfy me, it's a fact. It's a truth. But because it doesn't satisfy me totally, if I begin to think that this is something which is bad or not necessary, and that I have to eliminate it from my life, then what have I created? Tell me. Another dissatisfaction. And also, this which appears to me as material, actually it is nothing but Ishvara. So this is why I'm saying, in your spirit, the whole teaching is intricate. And the whole teaching is refined. What we do is, if we just see this connection, and if we don't see the connection that Carl was talking about, we create semblance of knowing without really knowing. Because there are gaps in our understanding which we have not reconciled. So therefore, what we need to see is, yes, this cannot totally satisfy me, but that doesn't mean that they're all useless, that they are all bad, and people who are going for it, they're all horrible people. You don't need to subscribe to that world vision, because that makes you the person who's actually dissatisfied, continues to be dissatisfied, because 99% of the humanity is actually connected to this, and you are only carrying anger towards them. So you don't want to be that person. Right? And therefore, this is very important part. What you said, yes, it subscribes kind of, but not totally. Right? Now, detachment. We talked about our connection. I think Kurt kept on talking about two things. One is finding your connection, and also seeing your responsibility, which refers to actions. So that means that is what we call expansion and growth beyond this one little person. Does it go well with detachment? Not really. So that means that you want to, I love this word pseudo. Pseudo means exactly how you have to appear as though nothing bothers you and all. I don't need all of that. Just enjoy the truth. Enjoy the all-pervading truth which never is away from you and never away from anything. Right? You don't need to create these huge divisions and live from those divisions and name people and name societies and name the world. That's a mind which is actually, you continue with your dissatisfaction, and that is not needed, right? So therefore, this actually we are not so much talking about detachment. What we are more talking about is this connection and responsible living. Right? So if it seems to you as though, oh, now I know and now I've come to Vedanta, so the world is anyway, I'm not interested in because it's mithya anyway. That is not totally 100% view. Right? Yeah, it's true that the world cannot give me, but ultimately I have to incorporate the world as Ishvara, and I have to learn to be very agile with live with a certain freedom. And Lord Krishna was exactly that person. He was in midst of things, and at the same time he was free. He had total clarity, total lucidity, and by the way, because he was very active, he is not called Rajasic. Please give up these words. I'm allergic to these words. Somebody who's active is not labeled as Rajasic. Why?
Because we all have rajas.
We all have, first of all of us have rajas, but in fact seeing these connections and within that connection being really active and doing what one needs to be done makes a person highly sattvic. Sorry, because one is following dharma, alignment to dharma. So therefore, we are not talking about the person who is active or not active. We are talking about what the person understands, how the person sees the reality, and how the person acts in this world with a certain connection beyond just me and myself, and sees a bigger connection and honors that in me and honors dharma in decision making. So what Upanishads talk about is really more the person that you describe. You all describe this person, and very less about where is the absence of desire, does it go here? How well does it go here?
You all have the desire for knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So that means so that what in it, so you look at your own life 10 years ago. You had desires, right? You had many different things. Now you have desires. The only thing has happened happen is what? The desires are like slightly different, right? You were more interested in whatever I asked one person. I give a lot of classes in Bombay. So she told, I asked her, what was the desire as a child? So she says, oh, the toys, right? Then she said, when you became a teenager, what was your desire? She said, boys. So I said, from toys to boys, did it take like a lot of reflection? Oh, now I have graduated from being a child, and now I have to give up, and I have to be detached from the toys, and I really have to now evolve. It just happens, right? Yeah. So that means the more and more you see the limitation of the world to give you what you are really searching for, you move to another desire. That's all. There is no such thing called absence of desire. Thank God, good news, right? Yeah. You just kind of change your desire a little bit and you begin to see that, hey, I actually have a desire to ask this question. It's a desire to be answered, that you have to search for, you have to search for somebody who can give you these answers. And then you have to, really, when you first start asking these questions, your discriminating and discerning capacity is very little. And this is why you go from one person to the other, right? Because you don't know much. Then over a period of time, it has its own role. It makes you a more discerning person. You recognize, hey, this is also just some false promise. This also doesn't actually really solve my problem. So over a period of time, what happens is your desire to learn more, your desire to know yourself a little bit more also develops this quality in you, which is what? Discriminating and discerning human being, who's able to kind of say, hey, this is not working and this cannot work, even within the spiritual solutions. Right? So that means we are not talking about absence of desires, we are talking about what? Okay, one who is searching for, okay, now search, there is a desire for what? Gaining infinity. Search for infinity means I desire it, right? Then, what is this? Okay, impermanent nature of things, and I'm seeking permanent solution. That also means that my desire is for permanent solutions. So that means what is very interesting is, this is what we call the whole work of ignorance. When I ask you who's a spiritual person, you would say all the right answers on your own, with your own thinking, and you will still be talking about this because somebody said it. And you have not really thought about the connection of what you naturally think and what this person is saying and whether it makes sense or not. You have not taken the time to reflect. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that means that the whole of spirituality is about not like a parrot repeating things which are kind of, that it requires reflection on your part. That, hey, I'm saying one thing on one hand, I'm saying something else which I have learned from somebody else. How do I reconcile the two? Does it make sense? This work, if you don't do, what happens is you just collect information and you don't actually grow in your wisdom. So my purpose for these 5 days is to really make you this business, because all of you, I was very happy that all of you have listened to Vedanta. I can make you see all of these things. If I don't explicitly make you all these things, unfortunately they will stay somewhere along the line. You don't know how to reconcile facts and see the contradictions. Okay? So now, this is the person that you yourself have come up with, and this is the person that Vedanta is talking about as a spiritual person, and not necessarily this person. Okay? Now, all these different things that you have told me, they can be reduced to 2 things. One is, self-growth, and the other one is self-inquiry. Okay, you have to put it in which category? Asking questions about nature of reality. Self-growth or self-inquiry? Inquiry. Accepting that there is more in life than what we see, and you want to know something which is more. Self-growth or self-inquiry? Self-inquiry. Alignment to dharma. Very good. Please distinguish these two. If you only think that the spirituality is only self-inquiry, and if you don't pay enough attention to this, it's incomplete. Alignment to dharma doesn't belong to self-inquiry, it belongs to self-growth. Okay, now.
Is that also not inquiry? If you look into yourself, am I following Dharma?
Yeah, it is inquiry, but it's not just inquiry, because what it means is you have to change the way you are, the way you act in this world. Right? Self-inquiry is you come to know I am that Satchidananda Atma. But that doesn't necessarily, if you're just repeating it to yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're more dharmic if you don't pay attention to dharma. Dharma, see, the difference between, very good, both require some knowing. Please understand, what is the difference between self-growth and self-inquiry? Excellent question that Sandra is asking. Because both require knowing, right? I first need to know dharma, then I need to, right? So, self-growth, this way I think you will be sitting here for 3.5 years. And self-inquiry. At least. Yeah. Okay. What is the difference between the two?
I think the self-inquiry doesn't lead automatically to self-growth.
Superb. So that means, very good. Suppose, excellent. Suppose you inquire into the nature of self, and suppose I tell you and I show you that Atma is Sat Chit Ananda. What does it mean? I will explain much later. So existence, which is awareness or consciousness, which has no limitation, it is limitless. Existence, awareness, which is limitless. That is, now I'll explain the meaning much later. Yeah. Suppose I show you in the class that this is the nature of Atma, and not Atma is not this little body and mind. Will it naturally make you a dharmic person? No. So therefore, here, look at the distinction, very important distinction.
It seems like they are two different selves, the big one and the small one.
Excellent. Excellent. So that means, as Buddha is saying, that when you are wanting to know the reality, don't pretend that you are Satchidananda. Don't pretend. Because you are yet to know it. Don't start thinking that I know it and start thinking that, oh, now nothing matters. That is the worst thing that you can do when you become a spiritual person, Vedanta. So therefore, this person you are, the individual who is wanting to know this. So don't pretend to be already like this because you have heard Upanishads talking about this.
So, you would say it's like it's a problem or it's an obstacle to pretend to be already like cooked. For example, fake it unless you make it.
Yes.
Because some teachers are promoting this idea. Just fake it unless you make it.
So the fake it and make it, my teacher himself used to say, but he used to say it in a very different context. Not that you fake it that you are Atma and then all of a sudden Atma will emerge. Not in that sense. Not that sense. What he was saying, this fake it and make it, was a very interesting sense. There is a beautiful Samaveda verse. Now I'll go and I'll not even come to here. But there is a beautiful Samaveda verse which says, Setun tara dustaran danena adanam tara. Beautiful, right? I'm not going to write it. So, what it means is, Setu means the bridge. Tara. Tara means cross, which is dustara. Dustara means it's difficult to cross. And what is this Setu that what is this bridge that we are trying to cross? We are trying to go from what? Adanam. What is Adanam? Adanam is the tendency to hoard for yourself. So that means a small individual feels insecure, and as a result of that insecurity, there is a tendency to hoard everything because you don't know what tomorrow is going to be. So all of us are born slightly with some narcissistic tendencies and certain self-absorption that we all have, right? And which makes us a very kind of person who's always looking for one's own self-interest, narrowly defined self-interest, and only act and manipulate the world or to engage in the world in a way that you maximize your benefit and you don't necessarily care what happens to others, right? So this is what we say adana. And then you have to become this person who Kurt described as sees one's connection with everything and everyone and acts responsibly, taking into account the impact of one's action on so many other beings. And so how do you become from this self-absorbed to a more expanded person? How?
It's a crucial question.
So therefore, the Samaveda says, Danena Adanam. Beautiful. You only can become big by acting. Even though you feel small and you feel insecure, you have to push yourself a little bit, right? Initially, you are willing not even to part with €5 for something, for helping somebody. Once you push yourself to part with €5, then what can happen is next time €5 becomes natural. That's called faking and making it. Right? Yeah. So that means you have to start doing it. Only by doing, then what happens? You find that expansion slowly, slowly. You can't move from this narcissistic, self-absorbed being to this very generous, the person who finds one's connection with everything, just overnight, right? So you break it into small, small pieces, make it doable, and when you act till here, then the life will give you opportunities for more, and then you move one more step. So this is what we call faking it and making it. Even if you feel like not giving, part with it, because in that is your growth, right? Yeah. But it doesn't apply to this, that fake that you are the Satchidananda Atma and then it will kind of happen. It doesn't apply there. Because Satchidananda Atma is the final, it's a culmination of your successful self-growth and self-inquiry. If you start pretending this, and if you don't pay enough attention to self-growth, you will be flying in your self-created world, and that's not called knowing the reality. So therefore, here this faking it and making it here, it doesn't work in this case. And nobody, see, first of all, what you need to understand is, now, how will you pretend you are Satchidananda Atma? Just think about it, right? What is Satchidananda Atma? It is limitless. How will you pretend you are limitless? Tell me.
Get rid of your body, shoot yourself.
Right? This Atma is without attributes. How will you pretend that you have no attributes? This Atma is non-changing. How will you pretend that you are not changing? Please understand. It's impossible to actually pretend to be Satchidananda. And there is only one thing in this universe, and that is Satchidananda Atma. So pretend that only I am there and only I exist. People will think you are cuckoo. This is why people can't relate to spiritual people, because they act like some other species altogether. And lose, this is why yesterday I said, the first condition for spirituality is being normal. Just normal, discerning, discriminating human being. And everything will fall in place, I tell you. So therefore, nobody can actually pretend to be this. It's impossible. First you have to see the impossibility.
Yes, the point is self-inquiry is related to knowledge. You can't pretend, you can't fake that you understood it.
Exactly.
So, fake it until you make it is related to actions. You can pretend that, but inquiry is you get it or you don't get it.
Superb, right? So that means in area of self-growth, you can say fake it and make it, because everything that you require, dharma doesn't come so naturally, right? The being connected to different people and contributing doesn't come so naturally. So here you can fake it and make it, and our teacher used to use it a lot, but don't misplace its usage in this area, because here it doesn't apply. As Anya is saying, it is actually here it is self-inquiry, here it is self-growth. They are two different things that we are talking about. Yes?
I think, can I say that self-inquiry is necessary for self-growth? So that means the growing is just a result. You cannot do it by yourself. Before you have maybe fake it or make it, or especially you have to do proper inquiry.
Yeah. See, this also, as Sander said, is not so clear, because this self-growth also requires some inquiry. Do you understand? It requires some understanding, inquiry about dharma. It requires a certain inquiry and understanding that I'm connected to everything. It requires some inquiry, but self-growth is in Sanskrit. So that's why I have to use Sanskrit words, because they actually really reveal the meaning. Self-growth is falling within apraptasya prapti. What it means is, the generosity which is not yet there, you have to cultivate. The connection which you don't necessarily see has to be cultivated. The responsibility with which you live and see your actions and its connection with so many people may not be there, and you need to cultivate. That is what we call apraptasya prapti. When I say Satchit Ananda Atma, is it something that right now your Atma is small and then you do something and it will become big? No. So that means here self-growth belongs to apraptasya prapti. It requires effort. Here, this is self-growth. Self-inquiry in the final sense is what we call praptasya prapti. What it means is, this Atma we are not producing. It is already there. So therefore, because this is already there, we pretend as though this is also already there. That's a mistake. And this is the catch. Spiritual catch. Right?
So self-growth will give us the opportunity to eliminate ignorance in order to be able to inquire.
Excellent. Right? So that is the relationship. Very, very important. Once you have that relationship clear, then life becomes so much easy. Right? So that's what he's saying. Vio.
Yeah, Vio.
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 V-I-O.
Yeah.
Okay. Vio. As Vio is saying that actually you need to understand this is something that I have to work for, and when I work sufficiently, this will be available to me.
So you cannot use Vedanta or Satchitananda as an excuse not to do the work.
Absolutely. This is something which is so common, I tell you, that you cannot use so the understanding that this is Atma is already full to do not to not work. This is not really what Vedanta is talking about. If you think this is what Vedanta is talking about, it's a mistaken notion. Again and again, any text you examine and it will show you how it puts so much emphasis on this, so much.
So that's the karma kanda.
In fact, it's not only karma kandas, even in Vedanta Shastra, there is a part which is talking about the realities. There is a lot of part which is talking about the growth that is required. So when we use the models like just Raga Dvesha model, Karma Yoga model, Sattva Rajas Tamas model, all these models are used for here. Don't mix them up. If you mix them up, it's a mess. Even within Vedanta Shastra, it is divided self-growth and self-inquiry. Now, when you understand this clearly, you will be able to understand the prayer. Beautiful prayer. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what comes to me is that we live in the West. We live in we have most of us have worldly lives, but then you have the concept of renunciation, sannyasi, and maybe there is a confusion also coming up because we're not living here like some people, sannyasi live in India maybe, and that's a totally different life. So
see, one thing is very important. I think I taught Gita, I don't know who was there in Berlin, who was there? Yeah, there were some people in Berlin. Where also, see, even if you suppose, right, you take sannyasa and you say, I'm only interested in Satchidananda Atma and that's all I want to study and that's all I'm interested in life. It's wonderful, it's valid, right? Now suppose you become a sannyasi, can you skip this part? No, you can't. Whether you are a sannyasi or you are a normal human being, your knowledge will not take place until you have taken care of your self-growth. This is how the nature of the reality is. And this is why this is how Ishvara is. Ishvara will not let you skip the steps. Even though you really would like to just stay here and pretend everything is limitless and I'm wonderful and I'm not affected by anything and it'll all break this bubble. I tell you, it'll break. Because it doesn't correspond to the truth.
But isn't sannyasa like a natural next step, let's say, after self-growth?
So, wonderful. So, wonderful. So, after self-growth is something which is non-negotiable. Whether you are a normal person who is engaging in the world, right? Or you are a sannyasi, self-growth you have to work for. And what does self-growth mean? Dharma, your connection, your expansion, all of this you cannot, just by becoming a sannyasi you cannot. Suppose not being a sannyasi, to answer your question, not being a sannyasi, you have worked on your dharma, you have worked on your attitudes, you work on your emotions, you have worked on your connection with Ishvara and real understanding of Ishvara. Do you necessarily need to become a sannyasi? No. Excellent. So that means this is optional, right? So what we have to understand is, please don't think that just the fact that somebody has become a sannyasi, by nature that person is superior. May not be, right? So you can have a sannyasi, please understand, who has not taken care of self-growth, and you can have a sannyasi who has taken care of self-growth. You can have a normal person who has taken care of self-growth and also not taken care of self-growth. You can have a sannyasi for whom, because of self-growth and self-inquiry, knowledge has taken place. And you can have a sannyasi who has not taken care of this, and also here maybe it's not so, and who hasn't understood. And you can have a normal person who has done self-growth and self-inquiry and has understood, and also not understood. All these are possible. So therefore, to say categorically this is better than the other is not the truth. And this is why, do you remember the verse we did in Berlin? Sannyasas what? Karma yogascha nishreyasa kara ubhav tayohu karma sannyasa karma yogaha vishishyate. These are the words of Lord Krishna. Both options are given. But karma yoga is safe. Why? Because when you act in this world, you have to take care of your relationships. You have to take care, you have to go and work, and you have to deal with your boss, and you have to deal with your colleagues, and you have to deal with all the difficulties. You have to do it, right? You have to deal with the people, the colleagues, and all that. And that gives you an opportunity to see where you are. And when it gives you an opportunity to see where you are, then what? You have to take the initiative and help yourself and come out of it. This is something which is, as you continue to live life, whether you like it or not, what people will behave in a certain way that you don't like. Right? Things will not happen your way. You're tempted to get something where actually it's much easier, but the right thing to do is much more difficult. All these are tests. How you are. You have your self-growth, in your self-growth. It will not let you escape. Unless you keep pretending that you are Satchidananda Atma and you are not affected. And you just don't want to be that person. Really, you don't want to be that person because he's faking it. Really. Surya keeps reminding me that time is okay. Can I just, no, okay, I'll come back and I will explain. In light of this, the prayer will become very easy. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti.